Mere Conservatism.
David Perry, Cleve Walker, and Mere Conservatism. David, first of all, let me say congratulations to your Georgia Dogs. You got something to be happy about.
Number one team in the country. Yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah, I hate to say this, but when my teams lose, it makes me feel bad. So when Georgia loses, when the Braves lose, when the Republicans lose, it makes me feel bad. I'm just being honest with you.
Okay.
I know that politics is a team sport. Let's be honest.
Well,
when my candidates lose or the people I'm voting for lose, especially with the stakes the way they are in the country, that makes me feel bad. So It's good that one of my teams wins sometimes, and we'll see how Georgia does in the playoff. But they're the number one team, and I really expect them to end up in the final. They really should, I think.
I think so. They're the real deal, and unfortunately, Georgia was the scene of a terrible defeat. Our last hope.
Yeah, Herschel Walker went down this week, unfortunately, and it was another close race, but not as close as the last one, actually. The turnout wasn't quite as good.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, it didn't work out, and people can look at and use hindsight and look at this race and say a lot of things about it. The most common thing I'm hearing, Cleve, is this is irritating, but you know those people that write on Facebook or Twitter and they use the clap hands emoji in between every word they say?
Yeah, I know.
So they say candidate, clap, quality, clap, matters, clap.
You know the sad thing behind that stupidity, though, doing it that way? McConnell and other Republican politicians were saying the same thing, okay, while the election is underway. And the lieutenant governor of Georgia said the very same thing as well. Says,
not helpful.
Not helpful. No, I mean, it's not helpful. But before the election is decided, you're saying stuff like that. So
yeah.
I'm going to have some issues with them for a while.
Now, and look, there is some truth to that, but I think that there is probably some truth to everybody's opinion on why what happened. You would think that Herschel Walker would have performed closer to his Republican counterparts in other races like the governor, lieutenant. I mean, Georgia experienced basically a red wave other than Herschel Walker.
Right.
So, he underperformed other Republicans. So there's got to be a reason for that, and candidate quality could have something to do with it. There could be a lot of other things that have to do with that as well, though.
I'm going to sound like Joe Biden by what I'm about to say. Warnock only won because he's black. Okay. Warnock is black.
You don't sound anything like Joe Biden because you just got through that whole sentence.
But my point is, I don't think that a white Republican would have done even as well as Herschel Walker, because you and I don't see things that way. I'm just telling what their constituency, the Democrats, see things as. So it was baked in that Warnock was going to win. And
the argument against that would be Kemp's performance, because Kemp is a white Republican and he did much, much better than Herschel.
Well, but he didn't do that the first time.
It's true.
Stacey never had any credentials to run, but yet she came very, very close.
Yeah, she only lost the first time by about, I think, 50,000 votes or something like that.
And it was only because she was black. I'm just telling you, okay? But the second time round, at least Kemp had a record. He had incumbency behind him, and he used it masterfully. And also,
so you think that
she turned out to be a bad candidate because
she's terrible.
Even blacks could not get excited about her. I'm just telling you, that showed up.
But then in the Senate race, you have two black men running.
Well, no. See, that's where I correct you. Herschel Walker is not a black man in the eyes of the constituency behind Warnock. He's not black.
Yeah.
So there's that. And
now you do sound like Joe Biden.
Yeah. And now, and to be quite honest with you, as a black man myself, as a conservative who votes Republican, I'm not considered black by a lot of blacks, particularly in the Progressive and the Democrat Party. So there's that. So,
that's a good point, Cleve, and that's something that we've talked about before. But the phantom menace of black conservatives, it's like you guys don't exist. You may as well not be
And when we do exist, we're the scum of the earth, and they're energized against us, okay? But we got to understand, David, this is a Democratic Party. This is a constituency that could elect a Fetterman, all right? Let's understand what we're saying here. A man who should have lost to a weasel, an animal if he was running. And yet they voted for him.
Yeah, broadly speaking, Democrats will do that. I mean, they voted for a dead guy.
Yeah.
But and I'm not talking about Fetterman. I'm talking about a different race.
Right.
The thing is, this is where I go back to politics is a team sport. I would vote for a dead Republican over a Democrat. I would do the same thing. So I don't necessarily blame them for that, because what's going to happen is you vote for the dead guy, and then, he's dead, so your governor gets to appoint somebody to that seat. So that's that was the calculus.
You make a good point there, but I'm saying these are the type of candidates because the head of their ticket, Biden, is that same way. Here's a guy who, anyway.
Yeah.
So it is.
Well,
what it
and
is.
it goes to show you too that when it comes to these candidates who are rubber stamp kind of candidates, you see where the power really lies, and that is that there's more and more centralized power. The executive is compiling more and more power. So you got guys like Fetterman. It doesn't really matter.
I guess
what
I'm just trying
to. They just need a yes vote. That's all.
I'm just trying to take down this argument of the so-called best and qualified candidate being the one that wins, because neither of those guys, Fetterman or Biden, is the best or qualified candidate.
Yeah, and so the only comment I made to anybody was a friend of ours who commented the candidate quality matters thing, and I just said, this does not seem to be universally true. Right. And that's all I have to say about that. I mean, you can say that all you want, but there are many examples to disprove this theory. Mm-hmm. So,
well, here's this too, and then we'll get off this subject. It's very ironic what I'm about to say, but Democrats and people in general hold Republicans to a higher standard than the Democrats hold themselves to. In other words, they can have all the kind of totally awful candidates, both as far as political-wise, as character-wise, and everything else, and it's fine. But our candidates cannot in any way have a blemish. So it's like they've established that. We're going to hold them to a higher standard. We're going to make them hold themselves at a higher standard, or we can put up the sleazeball or anybody else we want to. Mm-hmm. And that's very ironic. It's true.
And some people might say that's not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy.
Okay.
In other words, it's because the Democrats are better. Just inherently, they're right.
Right.
And so that's what they think. Yeah. So that's why they can do that.
It's a religion, but we'll talk about that later. The Twitter files, major revelations that show what we all knew was happening at Twitter. Mm-hmm. It started off as, quote unquote, content moderation to stop child pornography. That's what
the
Elon
tools
Musk,
that they used.
Musk used. Yeah. But it was turned to censorship. The files revealed that Twitter employees did censorship on call for various political figures. And so basically we're saying, for example, back in 2020, we found out from the files that a Biden campaign official could just send a list of links, and a Twitter employee would respond with the 2 words, handled. It's handled. So it's one of those things where it's out in the open now. And yet, David, once again, the mainstream media is not touching this. Mm-mm. It's astounding.
Mm-hmm. Because it's old news, Cleve. And they do this with a lot of stories. They cover it up, they ignore it, they push it to the side, they won't cover it, and then when it finally sees the light of day, because it just can't be held back any longer for whatever reason, they say that's old news.
Right.
That's just whatever. They might run a story about it in some obscure place and then say, we covered it, it's old news.
Right, and one of I forget which network, the mainstream network it was, David, but one of them they started reporting on the laptop as if they discovered it.
All of a sudden, like CBS just found the laptop.
That's the one, right. So they can
I saw a Babylon Bee headline that said that CBS just reported Abraham Lincoln was shot.
They verified it.
Yeah,
right?
They verified it. Yeah.
So there's that. So, but the point is, again, if anybody, only the most foolish, deliberately deceived person can say, we don't see an effort by the media to prop up the Democrats as opposed to, because they're trying to, and it's not done yet, Musk says he's got much more to
Yes.
come out of this.
Well, and so what we already knew that Twitter suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story in egregious ways. They deleted accounts. They blocked people from even sharing the story in private messages.
That's right.
They kicked New York Post off their platform. They kicked Kylie McEnany off the platform. They censored it from being privately shared and publicly shared on Twitter.
Right.
We knew that they rigged the election by suppressing this information. Other big media companies followed suit, of course. But what we're seeing from these Twitter files is how that happened kind of behind the scenes. And that is interesting to me to see what the mechanism was. What you see is that there's quite a bit of internal discussion inside Twitter about whether this was proper. Mm-hmm. And they discussed it in these emails and these files that we can see. And one of the things that you see is they basically say, well, we've already kind of done it, so we just need to stick with it. You also see that they were getting promptings from government officials.
Yes, the FBI.
On this, the FBI specifically. And it came out over the weekend that even that first batch of Twitter files was vetted by a former FBI lawyer who was working at Twitter. They didn't realize, Elon Musk didn't even know that this guy, and I can't even remember his name now.
James Baker.
Was looking at the Twitter files, scrubbing them, and then only sending certain ones to the journalists who were then putting out the Twitter files. We didn't even see everything that was supposed to be seen because of this guy, James Baker. When Elon Musk found out James Baker was doing this, he fired him. So he's gone now. Yeah. So the Twitter files that we get moving forward should have even more information if this guy isn't scrubbing them ahead of time. So it's dirty. It's very dirty. And what we're getting to see is kind of the ugly underbelly of how this organization did what we already knew they did. And it's important to note, there was just one media outlet that was doing that. Twitter did it, and we're seeing that. Facebook did the same thing. They followed suit. And then, of course, there's all the major news networks that refused to cover it and talk about it because they were in on it. They didn't want to repeat the mistakes of 2016, in their words, which, in other words, was telling the truth and their candidate not getting elected.
Right. And you're right. We already knew it was happening. But now it's been documented by the medium itself of Twitter, and this is why, David, I'm not going to give up at this point. A lot of folks are giving up. I'm not, because I'm seeing things that this was never supposed to happen. Twitter was never supposed to be in a situation where these type of things were going to be revealed, and I'm shocked that it's happened because I didn't think it was ever going to happen. So for the second time, the Supreme Court decision was the first, and now this. I'm seeing things I never thought we would even see take place.
Well, and the media is still on a blackout on this story. So they're still not really talking about it.
No.
To them, like I said, it's old news.
Right.
They don't want to talk about it. And one thing that we didn't discuss when we talk about Warnock and Herschel Walker, that's true about every Democrat, is that you have to remember they have a massive media behind them.
Yes.
Supporting them.
Right.
Imagine if we had a media cleave that was oppositional to Joe Biden. If they were doing what they were supposed to do and they were an oppositional type media, how hamstrung would he be by the media? Because they would cut him to pieces because there's so much wrong with what he's doing and everything that's happening with his dementia and all that stuff. He would be helpless, but because he's being propped up by them, he's getting a lot of help. The media is doing the same thing. They're backing up Democrats with this story. They do the same thing with any Democratic candidate they need to do that with, including Warnock. And we are at a distinct disadvantage because of this.
Now, the polls showed after the election, because they did polling and research on this, and more than one showed that voters said if we had known about the laptop, it would have impacted my vote.
Of course.
So what you're saying has been proven. So again, forget about the mail-in ballots, which I still don't like. I don't like ballot harvesting, but that's not the point. The election was still rigged, and we're seeing how it was rigged against Trump, against Republicans. We're seeing it in real time now. And so now that we have the House and we're going to do some investigations, this has to be one of them. This has to be. I want to see the head of the FBI answer for this. I want to see the intelligence officials who said yada, 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 have to answer for this. They probably will plead the fifth. I don't care, but it needs to be done. It needs to be done because a grave crime was done against our elections by these guys.
Yeah, and it's a little daunting to think about how deep that goes and how deep the rot is in the FBI and various other places. It's not going to be easy to get rid of it, but we need to do everything that we can. I agree. I think that Congress should act on this. Maybe they need. I mean, I hate to say this, but maybe they need oversight in some way of these companies. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't want to go that route because you know where that eventually leads.
Yes, I do. But it's But
something happened. We've got
corruption.
Yeah.
So here's what they can do. The corruption in the FBI that was a part of this, and let's name names. Let's find out who are these 50 intelligence officers who said this is Russian disinformation.
Right.
That was one thing that the media companies leaned on to suppress the story.
Every single time. Every single time.
So we need to find out who these people are and expose this stuff if we have any hope of correcting it.
Well, on to another story, but still that's
a big one, and there are more Twitter files coming out, so keep an eye on it.
And again, and people say, "Oh, you can't worship the guy." I'm not worshiping Elon Musk. I'm just saying this guy is being used in a way that I didn't think anybody could do this. I mean, it took an Elon Musk to do this. And speaking of Elon Musk, by the way, this is interesting. He just lost his title of the world's richest man.
Oh,
yeah!
Congratulations, Cleve. You finally overtook him, huh?
Well, I tried. A guy named Bernard Arnault. He's a chief executive of Louis Vuitton's parent company, whatever that's about. Elon's worth went from $300 billion to a measly $185.3 billion. So he's dropped a lot.
Wow.
Poor guy.
Yeah,
Only 185.
I guess some of his companies losing value. Is that what's going on?
The purchase, I think, of Twitter, and right now, and that's not a profit yet, so that's probably reflected in there. So, so he's paid a price, but he's been reduced to $185 billion, second richest man in the world. So, I mean, it's hitting everybody hard.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But anyway, President Biden and his administration right now, they're furious that Congress is poised to remove the military's universal vaccine mandate. And I say, hallelujah.
Yeah, they need to do that.
Long time coming. Now, we have some who are trying to also get military people reinstated and recompensated.
I will say one of Donald Trump recently announced he was running for president.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I have a feeling, Cleve, that's not going to go very well, but we'll see because people have counted out Trump before. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been saying the walls are closing in on Trump for 6 years now. Yeah. He's still trucking. But one of the best things I feel like he said in his announcement speech was that he wanted to rehire all the military people that were kicked out because of the vaccine and give them back pay.
Yes.
And I thought that's actually a good campaign stance.
Yes.
And it sounds like Congress is moving in that direction.
Well, not only is this a grave injustice, but it's compromised our nation's security.
It's bad. It's a problem.
I mean, even if you don't want to, even if you're a vaccine believer, at least understand this action weakened our armed forces and continues to do so.
We're in trouble as far as our position in the world goes.
Yeah.
We are. We
ought to be.
We're in big trouble right now.
Yeah.
And we ought to be. That's a good point. Weakening our military is a disastrous step in that direction towards having our country be overtaken by China on the world stage. We're already in deep doo-doo. We can't have stuff like that happen. Mm-hmm. We really need somebody in office, Congress, Senate, the president, who will treat China like the adversary that they are.
And I'll tell you what, Biden will never do that. No. And as an example of it, the release of WNBA star Brittany Griner. Okay, she's free. But left behind was Paul Whelan, an American corporate security executive who's jailed there. He was not part of that trade. And I just
I have
sorry.
really mixed feelings about this. So obviously I think the Marines should have gotten released as well.
Been part of the deal.
And I think it's very important to get somebody like Brittany Griner out of that prison.
I agree.
And I think that should be a priority.
I'm glad she's out of there, yes.
I think it should absolutely be a priority of the United States to have to work on that and get that person released. And so I'm glad Brittany Griner is coming home. However, they released a terrorist to do it. They released an arms dealer who's basically a terrorist back to Russia in order to get Brittany Griner. And so the reason I have mixed feelings is that I feel like the United States has to be in such a weak position in the world with Russia to have to give in order to have to release a terrorist to get a prisoner back, like Brittany Griner.
Right.
I mean, how weak must we be on the world stage that that's the deal we have to make?
Do you think this would have happened under a Trump administration with Mike Pompeo and others like that?
I don't think it would have happened under Obama.
Yeah.
I don't even think Obama. I don't think it would have been this bad. I mean, of course, Obama did Bo Bergdahl.
Yeah, I was going to say he's always shown. My point is, Russia, China, whoever knows they don't have to take America seriously, and they've got us at a disadvantage. They know that, and this particular trade just reminds me of that. On the world scene, America is no longer the big dog that we have been.
Yeah, it's a problem, and. Yeah, we need to get our Marine home. I would agree that you would think he'd be the priority. But look, I'm glad Brittany Griner's coming home too. I know she broke their laws, but
yeah, I'm glad she's out of there, and that should have been worked on. But again, America has no leverage anymore because I think China, in particular, more so than Russia, China has got their hooks into Biden. All right, Biden is not going to do anything in a serious way to ever cause China any problem. He's bought and paid for, I believe, in so many ways because of the entanglements legally, financially and otherwise, with them. But anyway, that's just one of the things. Let's see, do we have time here? Yeah, we do. The House this past Thursday passed that Respect for Marriage Act. Okay, they passed it with the help of, I think it says 32 Republicans. It was passed. 258 to 169, so it would have passed anyway. The point is, it passed, and there are warnings from Republicans from both the Senate and the House that this bill does not protect religious liberty. It does not protect us, and so this bill is going to come back to bite us, and we need to get ready again for another assault on those of us who hold traditional views about marriage, about identity and gender and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it's going to be an issue. And, the Supreme Court is hearing a case right now on this about a website designer not making a cake for a same-sex, or not a cake, not making a wedding website for a same-sex couple that were wanting to get married. So this is a huge topic.
It's bigger than most people know.
I'll be interested to see how the Supreme Court rules on this. I think that they're going to rule correctly, but this law right here is going to cause havoc with that kind of thing.
This law will be taken to the Supreme Court. That's going to happen. It's going to be challenged and as unconstitutional. And, of course, it is. And, again, if it goes to the court as it's currently constituted, I feel we'll win it. I really do. My concern is it's got to stay this way.
Yeah, and that's one thing that – it's really bad that Herschel Walker didn't win his Senate seat, because one of the main things I was worried about when it came to the Senate is the Democrats having unfettered access to their most left-wing tendencies, including packing the court.
Right.
They want to expand the court. And if all the Democrats decide they want to do that, there's nothing to stop them from doing that now.
Right.
The filibuster would also be something. And so if they want to expand the court to add a bunch of leftist judges so that they can rule things like this constitutional, they may be able to do it. I don't know. Sinema and Manchin would have to both say no, because all the other Democrats are going to say yes.
Right. You're right. It takes both of them now. We first on just needed Manchin, but now because we lost a seat. So it's serious business, and the good news is, Lord willing, in the long run, I actually believe we can still recapture the Senate. the Democrats will have in the next election cycle more seats to defend.
Yeah, hopefully in 2 years we'll
Yeah.
be able to get the Senate and the presidency. Hopefully, but
we need the presidency.
But we thought we were gonna have a red wave this last time too. So
yeah, we don't need a wave to get the Senate. Not anything like that. We can get it. So praying
Hope
about
so.
that. Hopefully that's the case. And David, what do you say though to those who are ready to throw in the towel?
do it, throw it in, quit, give up.
I mean, seriously.
Just kidding.
I know. Seriously.
Well, I say you were put here for such a time as this.
Mm-hmm.
The biblical principle in Esther, difficult things may come your way,
Mm-hmm.
but God knows.
Yeah.
God knew when he put you on this earth what you were going to face, and he has a job for you. He set aside good works for you to do. The Bible says he set these things aside just for you to do.
Right.
So find your purpose and fulfill those things. Do what you can. Don't try not to worry too much about things you can't affect, but affect everything you can.
And there's this, and this is going to be a slightly different take on what you just said. The right thing to do is still the right thing to do, no matter the results, okay? Doing the right thing, voting the right way, handling your responsibilities that you know you're here for, that's right to do, no matter what the outcome is.
Mm-hmm.
And in the eyes of our Maker, that is what really matters, right? It's not, we don't get always the results we want, we still do the right thing. Don't give up. David, they can hear this great advice again. Where?
Yeah, check it out on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, on Facebook. Thanks for listening.
And David, happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You don't look a year older.
Looking pretty rough these days.
David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker, and this has been Mere Conservatism. As always, keep the faith. It's not over with yet. Bye-bye.